In the heart of Maple Creek, where the fields roll like waves and time seems to slow with every rustling leaf, there stood a little white farmhouse. It wasn't grand, didn't have shiny floors or big gates, but it had something else, something special. It had love. That was where Emma and James lived. A young couple who had built a life together with more dreams than money and more love than words. And after years of hoping and praying, their greatest dream had finally come true. Her name was Lily. Born on a rainy Tuesday in late spring, she weighed barely 6 pounds, but to Emma and James, she was the whole world bundled in a blanket. On the day they brought her home, the sky had cleared, and the breeze smelled of pine and promise. The nursery upstairs had waited so long with its soft stars on the ceiling and tiny hand-knit socks neatly folded in drawers, but someone else had been waiting too, on the porch. Tail thumping against the wooden boards stood Bera's 6-year-old golden retriever with eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom and a heart the size of the moon. Bear wasn't just a pet, he was family. Emma and James had adopted him from a shelter when he was just a pup, thin, scared, and silent. But over time, with gentle hands and warm beds, he grew into the kind of dog people write poems about. He had been there through it all, every tear, every laugh, every quiet night where Emma stared out the window, hoping for the sound of a baby's cry. And now, that sound had finally come. As they carried Lily through the front door, Bear didn't bark. He didn't jump or demand attention. He simply approached slowly, carefully. His nose twitched and his tail stilled. Emma lowered Lily just a little, giving Bear a chance to see. The big golden retriever leaned in and sniffed gently. Then he looked up at Emma with something in his eyes, something no words could ever truly describe. It wasn't curiosity, it was knowing. From that moment, Bear changed. He became hers. When Lily cried in the middle of the night, Bear would pace the hallway until someone came. When a door creaked shut, he'd nudge it open with his nose just to check she was safe. If a shadow passed the window or a storm rolled in, Bear would place himself between the nursery door and the outside world. Like a soldier on watch. There was one moment just a week after Lily came home when Emma found Bear standing over her crib, looking down with his head tilted ever so slightly. Not moving, not barking, just watching. Emma whispered, "You love her already, don't you?" And Bear, as if he understood every word, wagged his tail once, slowly, every night, once. The house fell silent and the world outside grew dark. Bear would take his place at the nursery door. He never had to be told. He never wandered far. Sometimes Emma or James would peek in and find him fast asleep, head resting on his paws, ears still perked, like a knight in golden armor dreaming with one eye open. And though Lily was too young to know it, her first guardian didn't wear a cape or carry a badge. He wore fur, and he loved her in the quiet, wordless way only dogs can. But love like that comes with a price, because when you love someone that deeply, you'll do anything to protect them, even face danger, even give everything. But on those first nights, those precious, peaceful nights, no one thought about what might come. The family laughed over dinner. They took blurry pictures. They sang lullabies under soft nursery lights. They were happy, and outside Lily's door, Bear kept watch. He was ready, even if no one knew what he'd one day have to protect her from. It was the kind of night that felt too quiet. Outside the farmhouse, the moon hung low and pale over Maple Creek. A thin mist curled along the fence lines, and the trees whispered secrets only the wind could hear. Inside, the house slept peacefully, nestled in a stillness so delicate it felt as though time itself had paused to rest. Emma had finally dozed off, her hand still resting on the baby monitor. James, after pacing with Lily for nearly an hour to soothe her gentle cries, had placed their daughter back into her crib. She stirred only once, letting out a tiny sigh before slipping into dreams. He stood there for a moment longer, staring down at her. So small, so perfect. Then he switched on the nightlight, kissed her forehead, and quietly shut the nursery door, unseen by most. Bear was already in position. The golden retriever lay just outside the nursery, as he always did, chin on paws, ears slightly lifted, his breathing slow and steady. But even in rest, Bear never truly slept, not when it came to her. And tonight, that instinct would mean everything. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called out. The wind tapped a tree branch against the glass, and then Knit came. A sound, not loud, not sharp, but wrong. A soft, deliberate creak on the old wooden floorboards, far too far from any bedroom. Bear's eyes shot open, golden and alert in the moonlight. His body tensed, muscles coiled tight like a spring. He didn't bark, he didn't growl, he simply rose. Something deep in his chest, primal sense passed down through generations of protectors, told him. Danger. Downstairs, a figure moved, clad in black from head to toe. The intruder had slipped through the back door, which hadn't latched properly in the wind. His steps were cautious, measured. A flashlight beam skimmed the walls, the man's eyes scanning for valuables. Or perhaps something more. He didn't expect resistance, he didn't expect Bear. Padding silently through the hallway, Bear moved like a ghost gliding through the shadows, paws barely brushing the floor. He kept his head low, his breath silent, heart pounding. And then they saw each other. The man froze. Flashlight landing on a mass of golden fur and piercing, watchful eyes. At first, he blinked, confused. A dog. He muttered under his breath. Then Bear stepped forward. No barking, no warning, just a low, bone-deep growl that made the air feel heavier, thicker. The man turned. Too late. In one explosive motion, Bear launched forward, all loyalty and fire. The flashlight clattered to the ground as the man stumbled, crashing into the kitchen counter. A chair fell. A picture frame shattered upstairs. Emma jolted awake. "James," she whispered, sitting up. Then came the thud. A yell. The unmistakable sound of struggle. James grabbed the bat from under the bed and raced toward the stairs, heart thundering in his chest. Down in the kitchen, Bear had driven the intruder to the floor. The man kicked, shouted, tried to push him off, but Bear was relentless. He didn't bite to harm. He didn't attack to punish. He only wanted one thing, to keep Lily safe, as James stormed into the kitchen. What he saw would stay with him forever. Bear standing over the man, snarling, unflinching. A golden wall between the danger and the people he loved. James didn't hesitate. He called the police with shaking hands, voice tight with fear and disbelief. The intruder whimpered from the floor. "Call off the dog, please." But Bear didn't move until James whispered, "It's okay, boy. We've got it now." Slowly backed away, panting, still locked in that fierce protective stance. But his eyes kept flicking toward the stairs, toward her. Moments later, red and blue lights filled the driveway. Officers swept through the house, took statements, led the would-be thief away in cuffs. One officer knelt beside Bear and rubbed his head. "Good boy," he said softly. "Real good boy." But Bear didn't seem proud. He didn't wag his tail. Instead, he walked quietly back upstairs, past the flickering light, past the broken glass dot to the nursery. Lily slept on, wrapped in dreams and warmth, never knowing what almost happened. Bear curled up outside her door once more and let out a long, heavy sigh, because the danger was gone and he had done his job. The kitchen lights flickered. Shattered glass sparkled on the floor like stars fallen from the sky. A wooden chair lay on its side. The intruder, shaking, disoriented, and scraped, pressed himself against the corner, hands raised, too terrified to move. Standing between him and freedom was Bear. The golden retriever's fur bristled along his spine. Eyes locked onto the man like a hawk on prey. His breath came in short, steady puffs. Not wild, not chaotic. Controlled, deadly serious. But even now Bear didn't bite. He didn't attack for vengeance. He stood firm out of purpose. Out of love, because just a few feet away, up one narrow flight of stairs, lay the heart of his world. Her name was Lily. James burst into the room seconds later. His bare feet hit the tile, baseball bat gripped in one hand, the other reaching for the phone. His heart was a storm. He expected the worst: blood, chaos, something broken beyond repair. But instead, he saw Bear holding the line like a statue. Of courage, the man on the floor looked up with wide eyes, sweat beating down his forehead. "Call off the dog," he pleaded. "Please." "I didn't know there was a baby. I wasn't gonna." James didn't say a word, just dialed. 911, what's your emergency? "There's a man in our house. My dog stopped him. He's still here because of the dog." 10 minutes. That's how long it took the sheriff's truck to pull into the gravel driveway. Red and blue lights spinning across the windows like a warning to the night. But in those 10 minutes, Bear never moved. Not once. He remained planted, calm, but alert. Like a soldier in the final hour of battle, Emma appeared on the stairs, her voice trembling. "Where's Lily? Still asleep?" James whispered. Bear didn't let him anywhere near her. An officer entered and froze at the scene. "Well," he said slowly, taking it in, "looks like your guard dog earned his dinner tonight." The man on the floor was handcuffed and hauled to his feet. The officer checked his ID. He had to record petty theft, burglary, nothing violent. But tonight, that line could have been crossed. Had Bear not been there? Emma couldn't think about it. She sank to the floor, hands shaking, and whispered, "Thank you, Bear. Oh God, thank you." Only then did Bear's tail move. Just a little. The officers left with the intruder. The door was secured, the glass cleaned. But the house didn't feel the same anymore. Not broken, just wiser. Later that night, James and Emma sat in Lily's room watching her sleep. Her little chest rose and fell in perfect rhythm. The nightlight bathed the walls in soft starlight. Nothing had touched her, not even fear, because Bear hadn't allowed it. He lay curled just a few feet from her crib, tail resting still, eyes watching the world through the open door. And James whispered what they both knew in their hearts. He wasn't just protecting her tonight, he chose her. It was true. Bear had always been loving, loyal, gentle. But tonight proved something deeper. A dog's love can be fierce, sacred. It isn't just about wagging tails or playing fetch in the yard. Sometimes it's about standing between darkness and light. Without hesitation. And Bear had done that without being told. Without being trained. He just knew. Because to him, Lily wasn't just a baby. She was his, who's to protect. His to defend. His to love, no matter the risk, no matter the cost. Asterisk morning came slow. The sky turned from black to violet, then to soft gold, as if nature itself was exhaling in relief. Inside the farmhouse, everything looked the same white walls. Same creaky stairs, same smell of coffee and dusted memories. But something had changed. The night before had shaken them. Danger had come to their doorstep, and a line had been drawn in the shadows. Not by locks or alarms, but by a dog. Bear. He lay outside Lily's nursery door, eyes closed, body curled tight. He was tired. More tired than he'd ever been. Emma sat beside him with a blanket draped across her lap, one hand resting gently on his fur. Her other hand covered her mouth. She hadn't stopped crying, not out of fear anymore, but from gratitude. James leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes smist-knee. No one spoke for a long time. He just sat in the quiet, listening to the baby coo softly in her crib, unaware that she had been in danger. And rescued without even knowing. Later that day, word spread. Small towns talk. Neighbors came by with cookies and casseroles, shaking their heads in disbelief. "You mean he didn't bark first? No warning at all? He just knew." Emma and James nodded, over and over. Each time they told the story, the creak, of the floor, the intruder, the growl, the protection. And always, always. Bear. A few days passed. The shattered glass was cleaned. The lock on the back door replaced. But Bear stayed different. Not broken. Just quieter. Slower. He followed Lily everywhere now. Not just to her crib. She lay on a blanket in the living room. Bear would circle twice before laying down beside her. If she was carried out to the porch, Bear would wait by the door until she came back inside. His eyes stayed watchful. His steps a little heavier, and Emma began to notice. He was aging. Not overnight. Not suddenly. But clearly, gray in his muzzle. A limp in his back right leg. More naps. More sighs. It had taken everything in him that night. Every ounce of strength. Every muscle. Every beat of that enormous loyal heart. And now, his body was gently telling him, rest. But Bear wouldn't stop watching Lily. Not until he was sure. One afternoon, as the autumn breeze fluttered the curtains, Emma laid Lily in her crib for a nap. Bear, as always, settled just outside the door. His breathing was calm. His eyes slowly blinked. And as the minutes passed, something in the air shifted. He didn't stir, didn't rise. Emma came back an hour later to check on them both. Lily was sleeping soundly. But Bear was still. There was no panic. No sound. Just stillness. Emma dropped to her knees beside him, tears spilling freely. She buried her face in his golden fur and whispered over and over, "Thank you, boy. Thank you." James came and sat beside her, silent, placing a trembling hand on Bear's head. They knew their hero had finished his job. He had protected her, and now he was gone. They buried Bear in the backyard beneath the old oak tree, where the sun always fell just right in the late afternoon. James carved a small wooden sign, Bear, Guardian, Brother, Hero. Years passed. Lily grew. She never remembered the night of the intruder, but she always knew about Bear. There were pictures, stories, and one day, when she was 5, she pointed to his framed photo and asked, "Did he love me?" Emma smiled, her eyes wet but shining. "Oh, sweetheart. Bear loved you more than anything." And Lily, without a word, walked outside and laid a flower beneath the oak tree. The wind stirred, and for just a second it felt like a golden tail swished through the grass.